It's 6 p.m. on Monday here in Korea. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Hwang Sung-hee. And these are the top stories we're following at this hour. The two Koreas are in working level talks to determine the timing and venue of reunions for families separated by the Korean War. And rescuers continue their search for survivors after a fishing boat capsized off the southern coast on Saturday, but hopes of finding additional survivors are fading. In the latest move to resolve Europe's migrant crisis, Pope Francis calls on European religious communities to shelter refugees. Our top story this afternoon, the two Koreas are locked in negotiations at the border village of Panmunjom today as they try to set the date, location, and scale of a planned set of family reunions. The resumption of reunions for war-separated families was one of the key agreements reached during last month's high-level talks between the two Koreas. Our Hwang Sung-hee starts us off.
Officials from South and North Korea are discussing the details of their planned set of reunions for war-separated families. Departing for the border village of Panmunjom Monday morning, South Korea's chief delegate Lee Duk-haeng vowed to do his best for a positive outcome.
We will do our best to meet the expectations and wishes of the people.
Up for discussion at the Red Cross working level talks are the location, date, and scale of the event. The reunions are most likely to be held early or mid-October following Chuseok, Korea's Thanksgiving holiday, at North Korea's Mount Kumgang Resort. This is where the last family reunions were held in February 2014. The event is expected to be held in 2 rounds, allowing around 100 family members from each side to meet their loved ones. Millions of families were separated during the Korean War in the 1950s. Out of the nearly 130,000 registered divided family members in the South, nearly half have already passed away before any opportunity to reunite with family and relatives. South Korea also plans to propose holding the reunions on a regular basis, exchanging a list of surviving family members from both sides and making video messages. Hwang Sung-hee, Arirang News.
Now on to the latest regarding the charter fishing boat that capsized on Saturday off South Korea's southern coast. Despite round-the-clock search and rescue efforts over the weekend, questions remain on how the accident occurred. Shin Se-min has the latest.
Officials are scrambling to find the missing people who were on board the Dolphin fishing boat that capsized on Saturday. A total of 72 boats, including Navy vessels, patrol ships, civilian fishing boats, and 4 aircrafts were mobilized to search for the 8 passengers still unaccounted for.
Considering that 3 days have passed, and with only a few victims recovered near all coastal areas of Jeju Island so far, we have designated 3 different locations as search regions.
The boat with 21 fishermen on board lost communication on Saturday evening and was found Sunday morning near Jeju Island, north of Jeju Island. So far, 3 people have survived and 10 confirmed dead. The total number of passengers is down from the initial estimate of 22, which was based on the ship's passenger list. The Coast Guard said the capsizing of the boat may have been caused by high waves, an investigation based on the testimonies of 3 survivors. Officials are also planning to launch a probe to determine if the boat complied with safety regulations. President Park Geun Hye ordered the Public Safety and Security Ministry to do everything possible to search for the missing and ordered those in charge to provide accurate information on the accident. But Coast Guard officials say that after being notified of the boat's distress, the safety center was unable to confirm the boat's location within the so-called golden time and tried contacting those on the boarding list by phone. Although the Coast Guard eventually dispatched a rescue crew, it was sent to the wrong area, misjudging the location of the ship, costing valuable time and perhaps precious lives, evoking memories of last year's Sewol ferry tragedy. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
President Park Geun Hye visited her hometown today for the first time in 5 months. The visit is seen as a way to garner support with municipal governments to push ahead with labor reforms. Our Kim Ji-yeon reports.
During a meeting Monday with senior officials in Daegu, President Park Geun Hye urged both labor and management to swiftly concede to a deal to create jobs for young people. The visit is believed to be a way of showing her willingness to push ahead with labor reforms with the support of municipal governments. Her remarks come as the country's businesses and management have voiced concerns over difficulties in increasing investment and employment due to the rigid labor market. The challenge is to narrow the gap between full-time regular employees who enjoy more job security and higher pay compared to non-regular workers. President Park has made similar visits to the southeastern city before. Daegu is dubbed President Park's political hometown, where she became a party representative through a by-election in 1998. And it looks like the president's getting the support she's wishing for. President Park's approval rating released on Monday surpassed the 50% mark for the first time in around 10 months. More than half of 2,500 poll respondents by Real Meter show they were either satisfied or very satisfied with her performance. Her handling of the recent inter-Korean confrontation and her visit to China last week are thought to have helped improve her ratings. Kim Jeon, Arirang News.
Korea's rival parties have agreed to form a consultative body with the government in October to discuss the pros and cons of the free trade agreement with China. But with the two parties differing on the details, passing the FTA bill may take time. Kim Young-gil has more.
The ruling Saenuri Party and the main opposition party, the New Politics Alliance for Democracy, say they will work together for the smooth passage of the free trade agreement. The ruling bloc welcomed the formation of the three-way consultative body and highlighted that, if approved, the FTA would also have a ripple effect on North Korea's economy.
If the South Korea-China FTA is approved, a boost in trade between the two countries may render positive effects for the North Korean economy as well. It can also help stabilize the Korean peninsula and even help solve North Korea's nuclear arms program.
The ruling bloc stressed that products manufactured at the Kaesong Industrial Complex will become more competitive as they will enjoy tariff reductions. With China being South Korea's #1 export market, the ruling party says South Korean companies will achieve better access to China's domestic market. However, the main opposition MPAD remains skeptical of the benefits an FTA between South Korea and China might bring.
Will it be worth it when the FTA deal has practically left out the automobile sector? We must also consider the risk factors of China's economy and must discuss environmental issues like the Chinese yellow dust that Seoul suffers every year.
The MPAD added that South Korean automobile companies are little affected by the tariffs, as most manufacture cars in China. The opposition bloc also claimed that since April, China had already given tariff reductions to its trade partners, highlighting that there is very little benefit in having this FTA with China. Kim Young-gil, Arirang News.
The Korean won dropped to its lowest level against the greenback in over 5 years on Monday. The local currency closed at 1,203.7 won against the U.S. dollar, down 10.3 won. The drop comes amid uncertainty surrounding China and a possible U.S. rate hike that prompted capital outflow in emerging economies like Korea. Korea's benchmark Kospi also fell 0.15% to 1,883.22. For many in Korea, working at a state-run corporation is considered a dream job. However, a new report offers somewhat of a wake-up call, revealing that 1 in 10 of those employees are not quite living the dream. Kim Min-ji reports.
Roughly 44,000. That's the number of irregular workers at Korea's public institutions. According to a state audit report compiled by Representative Sim Jae-chul of the ruling Saenuri Party, there were about 270,000 regular workers at 341 public institutions, which means that 1 in every 10 employees are irregular workers. The figure is in contrast to the common perception of jobs in the public sector in Korea, which have often been referred to as dream jobs because of job security and benefits, resulting in intense competition every year among job seekers. At Korail Tech, involved in the construction and maintenance of the railway track of Korea Railroad Corporation, there were 44 regular workers, but over 900 irregular workers. Other institutions with a large proportion of irregular workers are Korea Land and Housing Corporation and the National Pension Service. The report also showed that the proportion of regular workers fell to 67.6% last year from over 70% in 2010. The number of irregular workers also fell about a percentage point in the same period, but this is as companies have been increasing the number of outsourced hires. The lawmaker pointed out that the large proportion of workers who do not receive full benefits is a result of public institutions turning to other methods to bypass labor laws, all while cutting costs. He called for the government to come up with effective measures to create a better balance in the workforce. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Korean cosmetics stand as the second best-selling imported cosmetics in the Chinese market, trailing France and surpassing Japan. Korea's trade ministry says China imported $1.7 billion worth of cosmetics from January to July period this year, up more than 36% compared to the same period last year. Sales of Korean brands soared over 250% on year to $370 million, snatching 22% of the market. France, which holds 30% of China's imported cosmetics market, topped the list with nearly $513 million. Last year, Korea was fourth after France, Japan, and the U.S. Industry experts attribute the success of Korean brands in China to the Korean wave, and they expect growth to continue. The price of cabbages is falling following the sharp rise in vegetable prices brought on by the recent drought in Korea. The Korea Consumer Agency says average cabbage prices in August fell 6.4% compared to the previous month to $2.4 a head. This is the second straight monthly fall since prices started to rise rapidly in January. Thanks to nationwide efforts to counter the drought, radish prices are also falling. However, onion prices jumped 5.4% from last month to more than $3 a bag. That's the highest August price in 3 years. Koreans are particularly sensitive about the prices of these vegetables because they're the core ingredients in Korea's staple kimchi. Over 8,000 of Uribank's automatic teller machines across Korea now accept Samsung Pay, a new mobile payment system. The system enables the use of Samsung smartphones to pay for goods by tapping it against card readers. Samsung Pay was launched in Korea on August 20th, but this is the first time it's available for use at ATMs. Samsung and Uribank worked together with Hyosung, a major domestic ATM manufacturer, for 4 months to develop the software. Samsung Pay will be released in the U.S. later this month, but the ATM service will not be available there. Thousands of refugees arrived in Germany over the weekend after Austria and Hungary eased travel restrictions to let them continue their journey west. While the European Union remains deeply divided on ways to handle the crisis, Pope Francis has called on every religious community to lend a helping hand to those in need. Son Jung-in has more.
Receiving a warm welcome from crowds, thousands of exhausted yet exhilarated refugees set foot in Germany on Sunday, concluding a treacherous journey from Hungary via Austria. After an initial registration, the refugees went through medical checkups and were provided with packages of food. The European Union is still divided over how to cope with the surge in refugees from the Middle East and Africa. Western Europe, including Germany, are urging other member nations to open their doors and share the burden, but Eastern countries like Hungary are opposed to the move.
Germany cannot take all the refugees when the European Union has 28 member states.
Austria has said it will end the relaxation of its borders after emergency measures were taken to allow around 12,000 asylum seekers to travel freely from Hungary to Western Europe. Pope Francis, who has repeatedly appealed to the international community to do more for the refugees, called on Europe's Catholics to shelter refugees fleeing death from war and hunger. He announced plans that he said would start in the Vatican.
I appeal to the parishes, the religious communities, the monasteries, and sanctuaries of all Europe to show the true meaning of the gospel and take in one family of refugees.
Pope Francis said 2 of the Vatican's parishes will shelter 2 families of refugees. European bishops plan to discuss the Pope's latest appeal at an annual conference in Jerusalem next week. Son Jung-in, Arirang News.
Now, this is just coming in. Germany and France have agreed to accept the refugees. We'll keep you updated in later newscasts at 10 p.m. But shifting gears, Korean language education is making its way into more and more schools around the world. Korea's education ministry says more than 1,100 schools in 26 countries taught Korean language as part of their regular curriculum last year. That's more than double the number of schools recorded in 2010. Thanks to the rise, the number of students studying Korean also doubled to some 93,000 last year. The location and type of school varies a lot, ranging from elementary, middle, and high schools in the United States to schools in several Asian and European countries. And that brings us to the end of our newscast. More updates coming up at 10 p.m. Korea time. Stay tuned and goodbye for now.